Good evening, and welcome to Behind the Shadows. My name is Susan Finelli, and I am your host and author of Behind the Shadows, a program where we go behind the shadows of what meets the eye. This evening we have a very interesting program. We're going to be talking about the life of a ballerina. Parents, if you have a child that's interested in becoming a ballerina, I urge you to throw in a tape or go and get your child and drag them in front of the set, because this is going to be a very, very interesting program. Our guest tonight is a ballerina from the American Ballet Theatre, and her name is Sasha Dmochowski. Sasha studied dance with Klara Koenig at the Boston Ballet School. She danced with Boston Ballet from 1994 to 2001, where her repertoire included Cunningham's Breakers, Taylor's Company B, Balanchine's Serenade, and world premieres of Christopher Wheeldon's Firebird and Twyla Tharp's Waterbaby. Sasha joined the ABT in August of 2001, where her repertoire with the company included Graham's Division of Angels, Tudor's Dark Elegies, which I think I mispronounced that, Mille's Rodeo, and Morris's Gong. And she had featured roles in Balanchine's Themes and Variations, and in Tharp's In the Upper Room. Sasha has taught ballet and pointe to adults and children of all ages at the Boston Conservatory and the Boston Ballet School. She is a recent graduate of Columbia University. While pursuing a doctorate in psychology, she will continue guest engagements with the ABT and other ballet companies. She currently teaches Pilates at Equinox Fitness, and that's where I happen to meet Pilates. She's my Pilates instructor. So, Sasha, I'd like to welcome you to Behind the Shadows this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Well, it's all you. I didn't make anything up. It's all you. I must have seen you dozens of times at the ABT, because I had a subscription for years and years and years. So I'm sure I've seen you many, many times. You know, I find ballet mesmerizing. When I hear a piece of music, during a ballet or without the ballet, it's like two different pieces of music. Mm-hmm. When I'm listening to it on the radio or a CD, you know, you enjoy the music, but when you're listening to that music and the ballet, it just draws you in, and I just get mesmerized by the whole thing. And it just, to me personally, it just changes the whole complexity of the piece. I'd like to show, we have a couple of pictures of you that I'd like, if our control room can bring them up, and Sasha can talk about them.
This first picture is from a ballet that you mentioned, which is Twyla Tharp's In the Upper Room. Mm-hmm. It's one of my most favorite pieces that I've ever been in my entire life. I remember getting into the cab after my first show doing it and thinking to myself, you know, now that that's over, I could retire. That was an amazing performance.
That's wonderful.
It's a piece that has not that many people. It's incredibly physically demanding. Philip Glass is the composer, so you either love his music or you hate it. So like you were saying, it's mesmerizing, mm-hmm. or you want to just, you know, shut your ears. But it was very rewarding.
We have one more picture I'd like to bring up, and if you can talk about that a little bit.
This one is from George Balanchine's piece Mozartiana, mm-hmm. which is another exquisite piece of music. It's Tchaikovsky. It's not, again, not a big piece. One of another favorite roles of mine, and in that position, I am in the corps de ballet. There are four of us. So the girl behind me in that picture is another corps de ballet girl.
Oh, I thought that was a mirror image.
No, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
I thought that was a mirror image.
His choreography was effective.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah. What I'd like to do is embarrass you a little more, and I have a couple of reviews I want.
Oh dear. Okay.
I want to read to the audience, and maybe after each review you can talk a little bit about the piece.
Whether or not I agree with the review.
I think you're going to agree with this review. The first one is when you were in Young Apollo.
Oh.
And it says, Sasha Dmochowski was striking as Leto, giving birth to Apollo. As Leto must rise in the pangs of childbirth, perched on the edge of a platform high above the stage. This has to be one of the scariest roles in ballet.
It is, for sure. What you don't know is you walk up the stairs all the way to this platform that is probably maybe 2 feet in diameter, and you're sitting up there, and you have to be doing things with your body that shouldn't be done on a small platform way above the stage. But
were you tethered?
No. If you are on your own, and it's the way it starts is that it's a completely black set, and then spotlight on you. You do your thing, and it goes black again. So it's a very out of body experience.
I can
and
imagine.
That's all you do. That's your piece.
That's your piece
in about 30 seconds, and then you're done.
But look at the kudos you got for that 30 seconds. I mean, I have one more review. I found many reviews, but I just chose two of my favorite. This was from Romeo and Juliet. Okay. Juliet begins the voyage with her helter-skelter exuberance in the opening scenes with the nurse, portrayed with compelling sympathy and well-worked detail by Sasha Dmochowski.
Another, I hate to say another one of my favorite roles, but
I think they're all your favorite. I think
each one when I'm doing it happens to be my favorite. No, for real, this was one of the most rewarding. The ballet Romeo and Juliet, the nurse is a really pivotal part. I mean, if you've read the book, you know she kind of guides the story through.
Yes.
She's always a part of everything. There is no dancing whatsoever in the role that you're talking about there. I often used to joke that I put some of the theater in American Ballet Theatre because they were nice enough to give me some of the more theatrical roles, which that one is no dancing. You wear a at least 40-pound fat suit.
Yeah, I saw the dress that you had to wear, and
it gives you back pain, and you have to drink probably close to a gallon of water between the. I mean, it's a 3-hour ballet, and you sweat so much. It's so heavy and so hot, but it's a really instrumental part of getting you into the role. It lets you be able to get her gait and her, you know,
and how you
her
walk
jovial
on,
attitude, and then when Juliet runs to hug you, she has girth. You know, to actually hug. So that was a role that each time I did it, it changed, and each time I got to work with each one of the Juliets and to develop a relationship with those women and to be there for them throughout the entire show. It's a really, you get to the end of the night and it feels amazing. It's 11 p.m. and you're exhausted, but it's worth every second of it.
It's worth every second. Did you dance in the Heights? Did you have a role in the Heights ballet?
No, I didn't.
No, I thought I saw something that they must have, the web must have had your name in the wrong place.
No,
it said you danced in the Heights. You know that I always say that you don't become a ballerina. You know, you're born a ballerina. I mean, we have an aspiring ballerina in the family, Lindsay, and I look at Lindsay and I see you, and there's no way you can become a ballerina. So, when did you first know you were born a ballerina?
I hate to say, it sounds a little new agey to say it's a calling, but in some ways, the physical demands and the time commitment that each dancer has to put into their career necessitates that pretty soon, when you're young, you have to decide whether you're going to really pursue it.
Right.
And if you don't have the physical requirements, you know, if you don't have feet that point, if you don't have legs that turn out, if you don't have a certain height and physique, then it's just not going to happen. So in some ways, people are born into it, and sometimes you see people, and you're like, they just were born to be one. But it takes a lot of hard work.
Yes.
So underneath all that talent, you know, you do need to really commit to it too.
You do. And when you say you have to be a certain stature and grace, I remember when I was a kid, you know, the kids, they want to go to ballet school, so my mother sent me to ballet school. I was so clumsy. And it was so bad that the night of the performance that we had to put on, the teacher made, because of me, the teacher made us hold balloons up because I was all over the place. So to
focus you, she made.
I think maybe to give me a little grace. I don't know. But
a little lightness.
A little lightness. I don't know. But we all had to carry these balloons and, you know, go across the stage. So I certainly didn't have the stature for that. How old were you when you began to dance professionally?
I joined Boston Ballet when I was 15, which is very young. Most of the time now, I think that was kind of still in the time when it was okay to sort of drop out of high school, which I had to do. Nowadays, people tend to wait until right after their senior year of high school, and then they join a professional company. So
you dropped out of high school, then came back, because now you're pursuing a doctorate.
No, I never really went back. I got my GED. Right away when I dropped out of high school, I started taking courses at the time in Boston. UMass Boston had a reciprocal program where they would let us go there for free if they would let their students take adult classes for free. So it was a great way to start studying things like comparative religion or, you know, stuff that I never would have studied in high school. So I was really enthralled with my education, even though, you know.
Exactly. And you're pursuing it to this day.
It happened Saturday mornings and Monday nights, because those were times when I wasn't performing or rehearsing. So
that's interesting.
my education, you know, went from normal high school to 2 days a week, but it worked.
And you're a professional ballerina.
And then I kept doing classes online.
Right. Yeah.
When I danced with American Ballet Theatre, that company tours a lot, so I had my laptop and I would take exams, you
online,
know, in hotel rooms. It wasn't the most pleasurable sometimes, but I was able to study.
I have to applaud you.
It kept my brain alive, though, and I think, you know, there's times that the ebb and flow of when you're busy and when you're not, and when I wasn't busy, it was nice to have something to focus on.
Right, right. Researching the show, I saw a video online, The Day in the Life of a Ballerina. I was exhausted watching it. It's grueling. So talk to us about a day in your life.
Every single day, usually 6 days a week, but you know, sometimes 5, depending on how hard you're working. You have to take ballet class in the morning, and that usually is about 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30 if you're lucky, until it's, you know, it's an hour and a half, and then you have maybe a 15-minute break if you're lucky. You generally rehearse for about 3 hours at a time and maybe have an hour off and then another 3 hours. On performance days, you tend to rehearse a little bit less, like probably only 4 hours.
Right.
If you have a performance that night, you sometimes have to get there, you know, an hour too early just to warm up and get yourself ready to go. And then you're usually on stage until 10:30, 11 at night. And then you go home and you're starving and exhausted and all wound up, so you don't go to bed until probably 1 or 2, and then it all starts again.
It starts all over again. Well, in this video, they followed this one particular ballerina from the moment she woke up until she went to bed, and I saw there a physical therapist. Okay, so the part I left out, when you get home at midnight and you're starving, and you know, you have to ice things sometimes if you're injured, so that's another requirement. You have to take care of your body on your days off. A lot of dancers do gyrotonics and Pilates as cross-training and sort of keeping the musculature balanced. Massage, people get massages generally. So yeah, it's, your body becomes sort of, I don't want to say like an instrument, but you have to keep it tuned. You have to, you know, you have to take care of it, even though. And have you ever danced injured?
Oh, are you kidding? I think every dancer out there is injured right now. No, it's just something. I remember I had an injury one time in my shin. I was getting pain in my shin, and it went beyond shin splints. And they're like, well, you might have a stress fracture. So they're like, okay, go in, get a bone scan. So they did a bone scan of my lower legs, and they're like, are you sure that doesn't hurt there? I'm like, they're like, you have hot spots all over your legs. I'm like, I know, you know, it's, you just, you
don't even feel it anymore.
Well, I mean, there's Advil, there's, you know, I think adrenaline too. When you're dancing, you don't feel as much. And dancers in general have a really high pain tolerance. So it kind of goes along with the territory. So.
Are there dancers out there that are taking prescription drugs so they can get through a performance?
Oh, many. Anti-inflammatories.
Many drugs or many
all those
many
things
dances.
that they say that anti-inflammatories aren't good for your body. You know, it's sometimes it has to go out the window. I mean, most people try to not take things and to try to actually feel when it hurts, because you need to know when you're going to make something worse. But a lot of people need cortisone shots too to kind of nip it in the bud for a little while, and it's.
I want to talk a little bit about the shoes, because the shoes alone,
the pointes.
Just looking at these shoes make my feet hurt. And you know I don't have the best feet in the world, so I can imagine. But in this particular video that I saw, when the ballerina took the shoes off, her toes were bleeding. I mean, does this happen at every... Well,
if you would look at the barefoot of most dancers, there's lots of calluses. So you do build up calluses over time, and you do build up, I don't want to call them little knobs, but you know, they're not the prettiest feet. But they are much stronger if you start and work appropriately with them when you're younger.
Right. Because these are very, like, what is this?
It's layers of fabric and glue. Nowadays, they're trying to make them a little bit more high-tech, where they've got some plastic and other stuff in there that's a little bit more reinforcing. But no, you're pretty much on your own. You know, you have things that you can wear to stuff in there, padding, and different dancers have different methods of padding their feet.
I know when Lindsay put on a pair of them, her mother took her to something going on at the ABT, and she bought her a pair of signed slippers. So she put them on, and this hurts.
It's hard.
It hurts.
No, it's funny. I remember my first time, having pointe shoes too. I remember being like, well, I kind of don't like them because they make everything harder. And it's hard. They are really fun, and I think now I couldn't imagine dancing without them. I still take class in them, and it's a challenge. It's something that you enjoy working, and it changes the whole quality of your dancing. So
absolutely, and it's your legs must be like bricks. The muscles.
It does develop them.
Yeah, it does develop them. You teach, and I read that you teach ballet and pointe. So talk to us about the difference in the dancing techniques.
I love teaching. Teaching anything. I think the relationship between teacher and student, it was so important to me when I was growing up that to be able to relate to people on their level, which some of the girls that I'm teaching now are in high school, and it's hard, to kind of balance. I get them at the end of the day and they're exhausted. So to kind of acknowledge that, but also get them to work their hardest. Ballet classes, like what I was saying, from like an hour and a half. This particular class I teach is 2 hours. This right now. But
where are you teaching ballet now?
I'm teaching in Connecticut. It's a great studio in Norwalk. That kids are really well trained. They work really hard. The pointe class that I teach is actually a variations class. So we sometimes do some quick warm-ups with the shoes, but then I teach them rep from the ballets. And then they do, maybe one at a time or two at a time. They kind of have a little performance. And right now I'm helping them rehearse for Nutcracker. So I'm looking at their variations and giving them some feedback on that. So that's kind of a role where I can be a little bit of a ballet mistress for them too. So.
Do you teach boys, young boys?
I have. Right now I don't. Generally, they need the same things that girls need, and then some. They need bigger jumps. They need to do some of their, I don't want to call them tricks, but some of the impressive things that you see on stage. You have to add those into the classes so that they get them, and they do slightly different turning than the girls do. But
and they probably have to lift weights because they have to lift you up.
Most men do cross train. They do to be able to press us above their heads and make it look easy. They need back strength and leg strength to be able to lift, not just arm strength. I mean, is it scary up there? Like, I've seen ballerinas, If you don't trust the partner, yes, it's scary. But most of the time, once you know that the guy's going to keep up there, it's really fun, and it's just
it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I watch ballet, I'm scared for the ballerinas.
There are certain lifts where you're like, oh no, but then you get excited because it worked. You're like, oh, cool, we did it.
Exactly. And what is the relationship with the dancers and the orchestra?
For some dancers are exquisite musicians, either because they've studied music themselves or because they're very innately talented with just hearing music and dancing to it. And so for them, the relationship with the music and the tempo means a lot. Some dancers get by with less, and it's kind of interesting that you can function in both ways. Sometimes you have choreography where you're standing there on stage and the conductor will go, and then that's when you start. So you have to be staring at the conductor. It doesn't just happen magically, So it's sometimes you do have to have that relationship where you're really closely in tune with them. So.
And what is your relationship with the audience? Or is the audience not there?
It depends. It really depends. Some of there are ballets with humor, so you specifically try to figure out how to make them laugh. And you notice when you have a better audience or when you don't. There are certain venues that you perform in where you can't see the audience at all. The Metropolitan Opera House, at American Ballet Theatre. It's a huge venue. When you're on that stage, every time I step on it for the first time in a while, I forget. I'm like in complete awe all over again. And when I've been in the audience there, the dancers look so tiny. So
they do.
But the other venue that American Ballet Theatre performs at a lot, at City Center, you can definitely see the first 5 or 6 rows. And there are subscription ticket holders that sit there, and they're their biggest fans, and it's really nice to actually be like, oh, there's so-and-so, So, so we do have, depending on the venue, and you do have a relationship.
You do have a relationship.
Absolutely.
And do you still dance in Boston, the Boston Ballet?
I don't.
You don't? No?
No.
How did you make the transition from Boston to, I mean, it's a big leap to...
I auditioned to a lot of places. I flew all over the country. I actually signed a contract with Les Ballet Grands in Montreal.
And
but
what
then
happened?
I got the job with ABT, and it's kind of hard to turn down ABT.
Oh, God,
you know, it was
please.
something like I was like, okay, I'm not, you know, it was a hard decision to make because I think, you know, my whole life would have changed if I had lived in Montreal. I would speak better French than I do now. but
my grandmother used to say, if once in your life a yes was a no or a no was a yes, your whole life would be completely different.
It's true.
And it's true.
Really, it's all cumulative.
Yeah, it's true.
The interesting thing about ABT was when I joined, I had 3 weeks of rehearsal with them. Thankfully, some of the rep I kind of knew some similar versions, so I didn't have to learn too much stuff too quickly. But we went right away on tour for a 3-week tour, and I didn't know anybody in the company. I had one friend in the company. Thank goodness I had her. But it was a little traumatic, you know, when I first went away. And to add to that, September 11th happened. I was in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, gee.
We were grounded. We took a bus tour to California because we were expected to perform there. We were the only ballet company in the whole country, whole world, professional company that danced on September 11th.
Wow. Oh, that must have been.
It was a hard decision. We had a lot of meetings about it, and so extremely memorable. My first show was on September 11th.
Oh my!
In Missouri, and I wasn't supposed to dance, but I got thrown in for somebody who was injured. So yeah, I will never forget my first show with ABT. That's for sure.
Baptism by fire.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to Canada a minute. What happened getting out of that contract? Did they sue you?
No. I think. They understood, and I let them know as soon as I knew, and I think that they had time to fill their contract. So
right. Yeah, because I mean, how could you?
I know, leave them in the lurch. I know, but
ABT, also, and then you can't give up ABT.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm really glad I didn't, and I didn't expect to keep dancing as long as I did, and now it's been 10 years later.
Yeah, let's talk about you're pursuing your doctorate in psychology, but what is the lifespan of a ballerina?
I'm milking it a little bit right now. I'm a little older than I look.
As am I.
I think most female dancers probably tap out about 35. One of my best friends just retired, and she's 40. Oh. But she's an anomaly. Men can last a little longer than women. Generally, though, you'd see like late 30s would be average. Right. It gets really hard on the body, especially if you have chronic injuries, like a back injury or something that's kind of nagging and it just gets too hard. And a lot of women want to have kids. You can have a kid and get back to dancing, but it's it's a challenge. And I have many close friends that have done that too. And I'm always in awe of their ability to get back on stage so quickly and so wonderfully.
And get the body back.
Absolutely.
To get the body back. Yeah. Because let's face it.
It's phenomenal.
Do you notice like as you've aged as a ballerina, do the roles change?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, when you first join a company and you're in the corps de ballet, you're doing core stuff every night, pretty much the same thing. Because I'm a little bit on the taller side, I was always in the back. I'm the third girl from the left. The longer you're in a company, your seniority and how you're performing does dictate that the director or the ballet mistresses will give you things that are slightly more featured core things, and then maybe you're lucky enough to get a soloist role or you get promoted to being a principal. The trajectory changes a lot as you get older, and generally speaking, the roles get better.
The roles get better.
Yeah.
I read that you define yourself as being a physical artist.
Did I really?
Yes, you did.
Well, the physical aspect of it is pretty obvious. That you've already talked about how grueling it is, and I think the level of physical fitness that most dancers are in would kind of surprise people. But then layered on top of all that, you have to make it look fun, and you have to make it look beautiful and easy. So it is a duality, and I think certain roles are harder to manage that than others. So that's the challenge, and keeps you coming back and doing it every single day.
Well, I also read, I don't know if you remember, but you said the human body expresses narrative and emotion through dance. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I think one of the reasons that I loved dancing with both Boston Ballet and American Ballet Theatre is that their repertory includes not only just dancing, pure dancing, but a lot of story ballet, a lot of narrative. And to effectively tell a story through your dancing and through mime and different acting, I think that's a really interesting aspect of trying to give an audience a full evening and a story, not just the dancing for the sake of dancing. So, for instance, some companies do a lot less story ballets, and I think I would have had a fantastic time dancing there too, but I know part of the richness of my career has been through being able to do both. So,
well, where do you see yourself as your ballet career sunsets? What do you see yourself doing? How are you going to apply your doctorate?
You know, it's funny. I have always loved school. I'm a big geek.
So you're a professional student?
Yes, through and through. And I think I had a really hard time. I remember it was my sophomore year in high school before I quit. I remember just thinking to myself, how am I going to do both? Like, I love both. I want to go to college, and I want, you know, so I knew, even though I needed to dance when I was young, I knew I would always come back to school. I was kind of lucky in that way, because I think a lot of dancers, when they retire, they're not so sure what they want to do.
Right.
A lot of people teach, a lot of people choreograph. And a lot of people just don't do that at all. They become moms or dads or pick an entirely different profession. A lot of dancers are very creative, obviously, so you have a lot of chefs, you have a lot of people, you know, that kind of go into professions that utilize different skills. Right, right. But, well, so I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. You don't know what you're going to be when you grow up. Hopefully being able to utilize some of what I've learned in all these years of dancing.
Well, I'm sure there's a psychology to the dancing, so
absolutely.
But I see that we're running out of time, so I want to thank you for joining us this evening. It was such a wonderful program.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
I can't believe how quickly the time has gone by. I'd like to thank our viewing audience for joining us tonight. And if there are any topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, you can contact me at susan@behindtheshadows.com. If you've missed any of our programs, you can go on my website, www.behindtheshadows.com, and click on Public Access Television. And until next time, remember, the brightest light shines behind the shadows. Thank you. It's a great show. You did a great job. Yeah, it's great. These shoes are absolutely amazing. It's just...